For part of my early career, I was involved in gifted programs, and part of my job was to do testing, IQ testing of prospective students to be enrolled in the gifted program. Now, I no longer believe in IQ testing for a lot of reasons, but at the time, that's what we did. And I would have these one-to-one sessions using a short IQ type test with students who were referred for the gifted program. So I remember I was in one school and there were several third graders who I was supposed to test on a given day. And so one of them was a little boy who wasn't really going off the scales in terms of the test at least. But one of the items was the following, and this was all done verbally. The item was, if your mother was going to cook Thanksgiving dinner and she had a 20-pound turkey, and if it took 15 minutes per pound to cook the turkey, what time would your mom put the turkey in the oven in order to have it ready at 6 p.m. for dinner? And so without a moment's hesitation, the little boy said 1 o'clock, which was the correct answer. It was a 5-hour. But I was really surprised at his answer. It was so quick, and it was not in concert with his other answers. Story number 2 was another third grader who was a girl. She was doing very well. In fact, part of the test was verbal intelligence and so on to the 8th grade level. So one of the questions was, what does malicious mean? And the little girl thought for a moment, and then she said, I think that means something tastes bad. So I departed from the protocol, because as the tester, you're not supposed to interact. You just listen to the questions. But I couldn't help in both cases. So with a little boy, I said, he was so fast. I said, how did you do that? Or how did you know that? And he goes, oh, my mother always puts the turkey in at 1. It's right before the football game starts. The little girl, I said, how did you come up with the idea that malicious means tastes bad? And she said, well, mal means something's wrong or bad, and delicious means something tastes good. So I just figured malicious means something tastes bad. Assessment is about making inferences. And so you listen to, in this case, responses, and you're trying to make inferences. If we only look at the so-called correct answer, the first little boy was correct. But when you asked how he got that, you realize it was not for speedy mathematical reasoning or computational skill. It was just something his mother did.
Right, you got to show
In the second case, in the second case, the answer was wrong, but that response from the little girl about why she thought malicious meant taste bad taught me a lot about her verbal reasoning ability. So the takeaway for me is, if we really want to understand what students know and can do and what they understand, we've got to have them not just pick an answer from a given option, but we have to hear their reasoning. And that's something that I've always advocated. We need to know why they chose the answer or why they come up with their response. The last story also has a revealing point. There was a high school English teacher who did a lot of writing with her kids, and she went through the writing process, and she had kids doing drafts, and then they would turn in their working drafts, and she would spend hours of her time writing comments, feedback, giving it back to the students so they could revise. And she always said to the students, if there's something I write on your drafts that you don't understand, come to see me. So one young man came to her and said, Miss So-and-so, you've been writing this word on my papers all semester, and I don't know what you mean. She said, well, Thomas, what is that? He said, Vagu. She said, what? He said, you've been writing Vagu all over my paper. And she said, well, I'm not sure what you mean. Can you show me? He goes, yeah, right here. She goes, oh, Thomas, the word is vague. Let me tell you what I mean by vague. If we want to give feedback, and we should, it's important that the receiver understand what we mean. And, understandably, she assumed that when she wrote vague, he would know he needs to be more detailed. But it's a great example of how we assume that if we're clear, everyone else understands us, and that's not always the case.